It was very chaotic because there were no, basic necessities, right? So we didn't have hotel rooms, we didn't really have showers, we didn't, normally you get in, you dump your stuff, and you kind of set up your workspace, and there was none of that. Um, and the mayor was camped out on the probably some ridiculously high floor because we had to walk it. Uh, so it was just complete chaos all the time. But there were so many, it was New Orleans, and so many people had not left that the city was just kind of empty and abandoned, but also people were still there trying to figure out how to make their way. That it was an amazing, amazing, incredible story. And same thing, we had people who were working with me in the field, and we, I loved reporting, and I to this day love reporting. So we were able to turn out a lot. We were just constantly, I mean, every single person you bumped into was a story. So you could just constantly have 10 stories on the air every single day. We were very fast on our feet, and I think that gave us a very good reputation in covering that story. We just had a lot that we were doing and telling and sharing. And then sometimes the network itself would say, hey, we've got this person, we've got this story, can you meet the sheriff here, et cetera, et cetera. And we would, obviously do our own reporting, so we would find people that we wanted to talk to. But yeah, it was a very crazy, chaotic kind of experience. Again, no cell phones, really, cell phone towers were down. So we had satellite phones. There was not really any food. So CNN kind of set up in a building. We set up a meal service, and every day at the end of the day, you'd have to get rid of your shoes because you were in such deep muck that was so filled, depending on where you were, with oil and just disgusting stuff. You literally step out of your shoes and into clean shoes and go home. So CNN kind of set up a home base where they had food and a chef that they hired, and food, and kind of a central place for people. CNN was always very good at that. They could kind of, anytime you had a situation, they're very good at getting hotel rooms and getting transportation and getting, figuring out how to get food to everybody, et cetera, which is not a small thing. In a lot of places, if they haven't done that a lot, it's really challenging.
What's the first thing you do to just distill disinformation from what you're really seeing with your own eyes? Like, what do you do first? Who do you go to? What are you doing?
Well, we covered Katrina from the studio first.
Mm-hmm.
We were there actually for quite a few days. And so I remember Aaron Brown had the show on before us when we came in, and they were calling people refugees. My producer was a woman from New Orleans, and she was on the phone. She had a ton of contacts, and she's like, these are not refugees. And so we were able to kind of, again, change the language and change it to evacuees from Aaron Brown's, I think, 11 p.m. show to the time we were on at 6 a.m. We had killed that. And again, it was just important to me to get it right. So you start with, what do we know and how do we know it? And what were the interviews that Aaron Brown did last, and watching them and understanding, here's how the story has moved along and where are we? And then talking, Kim, because she's from New Orleans, had a ton of people that she could just dial on her phone and say, I need you to hop on the phone, tell us, where are you and what are you seeing? And I remember, sometimes you'd be hearing from people, and Kim, and even, she was talking to her mom and dad who were in her house in New Orleans, and they would say, it's so weird, the front street is flooding. And Kim would say, well, that's not possible, because if it's the levees, it must be the back. And they're like, no, it's the front, which of course meant, we didn't realize it then, but that Lake Pontchartrain obviously was like, she just couldn't wrap her head around, like, they keep saying the sunroom is flooding, but that doesn't make any sense. The sunroom doesn't flood. And so things like that. We just had great access because she's from New Orleans, and she understood when someone said, such and such is happening at Lake Pontchartrain, or such and such is happening over here. She knew what that meant. When you're not from a community, the idea that a certain area is flooding, or an idea that people are trapped at a certain place, it often doesn't mean anything to you. It doesn't have a significance. And so we had the reason my coverage of Katrina was so good was because my executive producer was from New Orleans and knew that place like the back of her hand.